Tonight on A Turning Point, Pride. Celebrating strides while also reflecting on the ongoing challenges facing Northeast Ohio's LGBTQ+ community. From the current legislation that could challenge LGBTQ protections and how the community is speaking out, to an important legacy, how Northeast Ohio's gay bars and clubs have helped shape neighborhoods and lives. Plus, reflections on the gay 90s, how a game-changing radio show and host made history in our very own backyard. And the community resources and organizations helping Northeast Ohio's LGBTQ+ community thrive. These stories and more tonight on a special edition of Front Row, A Turning Point, next.
And good evening. Welcome to our Front Row, A Turning Point, Pride. I'm Russ Mitchell.
I'm Laura Queso. There is exactly 1 week left in June, which is Pride Month.
And right now there are several bills pending the Ohio legislature that would directly impact individuals of the LGBTQ+ community if passed, marking yet another turning point in the battle for equality.
House Bill 454, known as the Save Adolescents from Experimentation or SAFE Act, aims to block individuals under 18 from gender-affirming therapies conducted by doctors in the state, even with the support of their parents.
And House Bill 616, which is Ohio's version of what critics have called the Don't Say Gay bill, would prohibit schools from teaching about sexual orientation or gender identity, including divisive or racist concepts for students between kindergarten and third grade.
But we begin with House Bill 151, which would ban transgender youth from participating in high school and college sports across the entire Buckeye State.
It would also require schools, higher education institutions in Ohio, and private colleges to create individual single-gender teams and sports.
Our Emma Henderson met up with one local transgender athlete who is speaking out against the bill.
Catch. It's a universal game played by children, parents, or in this case, brother and sister. Fun and helpful if you play softball.
I'm not some major athlete. I am mediocre at best. It shouldn't be a concern for anybody, and it isn't a concern for anyone that knows me, truly.
The concern comes from wording in House Bill 151, dubbed the Save Women's Sports Act, by its author, Republican Ohio House member Jenna Powell. WKYC reached out to Powell, but has not heard back. Ember is a transgender female athlete. The act would prohibit her from competing on her school's team, mediocre or not.
This has helped me so much. Being able to be part of a sport and part of a team is such an incredible, amazing experience for me, and I want other people to be able to have that.
Ember cites 4 transgender girl athletes currently in middle school that could miss out on their entire high school athletic careers if this legislation passes in the Senate, which is why her parents, Minna and Chris, support her in speaking out.
Are you kidding? She just got here and now you're gonna take it away from her? And so she was the one that said, I have to talk about this. I have to speak up. If I don't, who will? And it was hard as a family. We had a number of family discussions long before we came out public.
The family is aware of the danger trans youth face when identified. That's why we aren't disclosing their last name or the town where they live. This legislation has them doing some serious evaluating because they will stand by their daughter, just as they did during her coming out journey.
Yeah, I think we're just normal people trying to live a normal life, and but we're afraid that we're going to be forced out of the state, that it's going to be an unfriendly state for us to live in the future. And my company actually supports that.
It's a story Democratic state senator and member of the LGBTQ community, Nikki Antonio, has heard many times from people across the state.
I think that's part of what's problematic about this bill, is that it would deny children, the right to participate in sports. It also creates a situation where it's demonizing them.
Ember spoke in opposition to the legislation, which argues she has an unfair advantage as a transgender athlete. Both she and Antonio believe the bill is a solution looking for a problem, since as far as they know, she's the only out female trans athlete at the high school level in the entire state. She has one request for Ohio senators if this bill goes up for a vote after summer recess.
Just listen. just listen, try to see it from my perspective. I mean, I'm the one that's actually going through this. I'm the person, I and a few other trans people, like, again, there's not many trans people in sports to begin with, are the ones being affected. Listen to what we're saying.
Ember's saying mediocre or stellar, just like any other kid who grows up playing catch, she wants the chance to play with a team. Emma Henderson, 3 News.
Northeast Ohio is home to a vibrant LGBTQ community, but finding resources and support can sometimes pose a challenge. Our Kira Cotton takes a look at some of the organizations working to make sure Northeast Ohio is an inclusive place for all.
I also think that it's really powerful just to be in a space where you know that you're welcome.
Inclusion. When you're in the majority, it's not something you have to think about. But for members of the LGBTQ plus community, it's a constant. Whether you're looking for a real estate agent, caregiver, or contractor, Amanda Cole, the executive director of Plexus, the LGBT and Allied Chamber of Commerce, says the needs, safety, and comfort of the queer and allied community are a priority.
I know that if you're looking for something, you can reach out to Plexus and we're going to help make that referral. There are so many organizations and individuals that are going to be able to meet you where you're at.
Another organization moving inclusion forward throughout Northeast Ohio is the LGBT Center of Greater Cleveland. From the Health and Wellness Center to the School of One, the LGBT Center is home to numerous resources and avenues of support. And from the near west side to the east side, Betty Jacobs is supplying a major need through LGBT Lake County.
Lake County is super, super conservative here, and has to come a long way to be LGBTQ friendly.
In 2019, Betty founded the only LGBTQ resource in the area, providing education, support, mental health, and addiction resources.
I knew there was a need. I knew there was a lack of support and services, but I think I didn't realize the emotional attachment that would come along with that.
Did you know that Northeast Ohio is home to the only summer camp in the state that prioritizes the needs of trans and gender non-conforming campers? Camp Lilac allows for kids ages 12 to 17 to fully be themselves, many of them for the first time in their lives.
It helps build confidence. It helps them feel like they have a community and a network and a safety net for them.
And Colors Plus, a nonprofit youth center in Fairview Park, aims to strengthen the LGBTQ plus youth community and allies through advocacy, support, education, and celebration. With their new location, the center is inviting parents to get more involved.
Now that we're in a bigger space, we can have parents come and stay and connect with one another at the same time that they can have their young ones nearby or their older teens, and I'll have some separation in between the two of them so that they can all connect in the way that they need to.
While these organizations are doing their part to make Northeast Ohio an inclusive and safe space, it's going to take a village to color the world with shades of inclusivity. For 3 News, I'm Kira Cotton.
Just last week, President Biden signed a list of executive orders acknowledging and supporting equal rights for LGBTQ Americans. This is on the heels of nearly 300 bills that have been introduced at the state level this year, many of them directly dealing with transgender children. One directive is for Health and Human Services to take a look at banning conversion therapy, citing an increase in suicide among those who are exposed to that practice. Another calls for increasing non-discrimination initiatives within the foster care system.
We turn our focus now to what many consider a vital part of the LGBTQ acceptance, the nightlife scene.
Cleveland's gay bars and clubs are some of the only places where members of the LGBT community felt welcomed and free to be themselves.
January Keaton takes a look back at Cleveland's rich and vibrant LGBTQ club culture.
Cleveland's LGBTQ club scene started downtown in the Schofield building on Euclid Avenue. It all began with the opening of one of the city's first gay-friendly clubs, the Cadillac Lounge, in 1946.
Straight, gay, tall, short, fat, white, black, blue, it didn't matter.
That was the place where they could learn about themselves and discover who they were.
Cadillac, along with clubs like Little Ted's, fearlessly opened to all during a time when LGBTQ clubs were some of the only safe havens many queer youth had.
Back in those days,
it was, you got to throw bricks at rocks, baseball bat, you had to run.
Gay clubs were places to organize, mobilize, share info and resources, and see yourself in others.
Oh my God, there's so many people like me.
The Leather Stallion on St. Clair, the longest standing gay club in Cleveland, opened in 1970, allowing women when many gay clubs were only catering to men.
I'm an ally. I'm not a member of the gay and lesbian community, but they were welcoming to me.
Cleveland's Hingetown neighborhood in Ohio City was arguably the center of gay culture in Cleveland in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where clubs like Bounce made drag shows the hottest ticket in town.
You let your hair down. You were you. You just didn't have to be closed up in a closet.
The Hingetown excitement happening just over the Detroit Bridge from one of the most popular LGBTQ clubs of all, The Grid, named, believe it or not, after the AIDS crisis.
When AIDS first came out, we didn't know what it was. So they called it The Grid, gay-related immune deficiency.
It was the place to be and compete if you were a drag performer. Sparkly gowns and makeup, lip syncing, everyone, anyone, voguing, death dropping to heart pumping house music that moved not only your body, but your soul.
I like to say I'm not dancing, I'm standing still. The music is moving me.
But it wasn't always a party. The AIDS epidemic swept the LGBTQ community in the 80s and 90s. Cleveland's gay bars continued to be a valuable space to gather, but also to mourn. And undercurrents of hate always loomed.
I don't want to call them gay bashers, but people were harassing gay people come into the club.
Mentally, it was horrifying.
And as folks fought to be seen and heard, the 2000s ushered in anonymity with the rise of the internet. You can now find romantic dates at a keyboard stroke.
You barely meet anybody. If they're in the bar, they're sitting there having a drink and on Grindr or wherever, Adult Friend Finder, looking for somebody to go out with.
Nationwide, 37% of gay bars and clubs closed between 2007 and 2019 amid the continuing rise of the internet. Cleveland's LGBTQ bars and clubs dwindled from over 24 in the 70s and 80s to just 6 today.
So yeah, it was a big difference. It was a big change.
Now, it's a party, but it's not like it used to be.
They say all good things must come to an end, but everyone I talk to agrees. These bars and clubs created a true sense of community and of pride.
Pride is every day I wake up in the morning because I'm proud of who I am and what I have become.
January Keaton, 3 News.
And coming up on Front Row, a turning point, reflections on the gay 90s.
A radio show that made gay history right here in Cleveland.
This is the first time that gays have really been politically visible nationwide, and it's not possible to change people's minds overnight.
We couldn't get a permit to march on the street, so we marched on the sidewalk to Public Square. And this year, I think, hasn't it been estimated that there were possibly 20,000 people at the last Pride celebration? That's nothing short of just astounding.
Nearly 30 years ago, a groundbreaking new radio show made history right here in Cleveland. Its host was a gay health pioneer with a larger-than-life personality.
His work touched a community that at the time wasn't always able to be out and proud. And as our Mike Polk Jr. reports, long after the show went off the air, his legacy lives on.
The following is a special presentation.
It's the Gay 90s with Buck Harris.
His slogan was sometimes serious, sometimes humorous, never straight talk. And you have to remember, this is before Will and Grace. This is before Ellen came out. This is before Modern Family. It was a big deal.
In March of 1993, Cleveland became home to the nation's first commercial gay and lesbian radio show.
Well, Cleveland, we have arrived. Boy, it seems like it's been a long time coming, and I'm going to be here for the next 2 hours.
When he had an idea and a vision, he was going to pursue it, and he was going to make it happen.
And he did. He made this happen.
The Gay 90s was the brainchild of its host and creator, Buck Harris.
This is the Gay 90s, the voice of Northeast Ohio's gay and lesbian community.
Well known in Cleveland's gay community, he was an activist, educator, and urban pioneer.
Perfect radio host, certainly, and a perfect spokesman. You know, anything that Buck Harris was interested in, you couldn't help but see the passion for it in the way he described it.
The show wasn't without controversy. A bomb threat on premiere day made headlines. A hateful billboard went up on Pearl Road. But as Buck's husband, Mike O'Connor, recalls, he was unfazed.
So that got a lot of publicity, and Buck loved it. No publicity was bad publicity in his mind, you know.
The Gay 90s ultimately cultivated a devoted fan base. John Farina began as a listener on the show and went on to become a longtime producer and co-host.
Now, for someone in our age bracket, I would be considered maybe more GQ. That's an older model type, isn't it?
Modern maturity, I think, would be more your line, Buck.
You're going to go to a break, John.
He says despite the local attention, the show didn't get much national publicity.
We didn't get like media, like press. Like, you know, there was no CNN reporter knocking on the door. But we did find that publishers knew we were out there.
Buck's dreams of larger syndication never panned out. But the show's real impact came from connecting with everyday listeners.
People were still very, very closeted and afraid to lose their job or their home or get kicked out of the house. So we were this outlet for people.
And Mike from Cleveland, you're in.
Hi, Buck. I was calling mainly to say that I think it's great that WHK is running the show that they're running, and I hope that they continue to do it.
You know, I am. I'm quite proud of it. I think we did such important stuff. It makes me feel good to know that there were people who heard our voices and we meant something to them.
After 6 years and 2 stations covering important issues.
I see a whole new movement, though. I mean, even that they've coined the term now transgender to be more inclusive. And I really think we're seeing a major shift in our community.
And landing memorable guests, the show went off the air in 1999, a victim of the evolving media landscape and changing times. Buck went on to open a restaurant and a long-running yoga studio in his beloved Ohio City neighborhood.
Of course, he didn't want to just do yoga, he had to run a yoga studio.
But after a battle with lung cancer, Buck passed away in 2018 at the age of 70.
You know, Buck was a larger-than-life, vibrant figure, and he was not afraid to say who he was and be who he was.
Cleveland State University is now home to the Buck Harris Collection, an archive of tapes, memorabilia, and promotional materials.
He ran for office.
Yes.
Elect Buck Harris for Cleveland City Council Ward 17.
On the back, it says Buck walks the talk.
Not bad. It's a good slogan.
Yeah. I'm sure it's referencing his show also.
A show and a man who helped carve a new path forward for his community and the generations that followed.
Well, I think a couple things. One is courage. You know, I hope they appreciate the courage that it took for him to do what he did. Sometimes courage is not one big act, it's one foot in front of the other. You know, stay the course and see what happens. And miracles happened, you know. In many cases, it is a miracle. So.
Mike Polk, 3 News.
Up next, a look at a sports event and summit bringing inclusion, competition, and fun right here to Northeast Ohio. Stay with us. You're looking at video from the Pride March of 1990, the second annual Cleveland celebration. That small protest has turned into a massive event with an estimated 30,000 at this year's march. And with that, we welcome you back to Front Row, a turning point.
Cleveland played host to the Gay Games in 2014, and this summer, Stonewall Sports is set to host its national tournament and summit right here in the city, July 8th through the 10th.
Stonewall Sports invites all LGBTQ plus athletes and allies to join their current Stonewall Sports members as they get set to gather here in Cleveland to celebrate 12 years of Stonewall Pride.
Nick Camino reports on the upcoming tournament and summit.
Intense, competitive, inclusive, fun, and one big party. That's probably the best way to describe the upcoming Stonewall National Tournament, but you have to be there in order to gain a true appreciation for this special event.
It's a space where everybody can bring their authentic self. You can bring your competitive self, you can bring your partying self, you can bring your family, whatever it is. You know, there's a space here in Cleveland for you to live, play, compete, all of it.
Monica Gustin is the national tournament chair for Stonewall Sports and recently told me all are welcome starting July 8th when hundreds of LGBTQ plus and ally athletes descend upon downtown Cleveland for a celebration, but also some full-blown competition featuring 7 different sporting events from kickball to billiards.
Very high energy, you got some competitiveness going on, lots of watching, plenty of opportunities to get engaged, whether it's through the sports or if you and your wife just wanted to come down for some of our parties. We have parties every night, social gatherings, and after parties after that, of course. It'll keep going all weekend.
The games offer another opportunity for Cleveland to demonstrate acceptance and inclusion.
Cleveland hosted the gay games back in 2014 and was a huge success. This is a smaller version of somewhat of the same, and it makes us incredibly proud to host this event that really shows the kind of open community that Cleveland is.
When you think about the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission and the big events they've helped land here in Northeast Ohio, you think of the NFL Draft, March Madness, the NCAA Wrestling Championships, and more. But the Stonewall National Tournament, also a big deal to this area economically.
Purely from an economic standpoint, we're going to have over 1,600 participants here for several days, and it's going to pump an estimated $1.2 million into the local economy.
So just where exactly is this tournament being held?
Gordon Park, City of Cleveland for kickball, Mall C for bocce. We're working with Cleveland State for dodgeball and tennis. Billiards is going to be our farthest. That will be at Cocktails Cleveland. And then Mulberry's Cleveland for sand volleyball. They've got 6 courts ready for us.
And what can we truly expect come July 8th?
It's something that we're so excited to showcase. We're Midwest City. You can come here, you can compete, we can build community together, and we can make some lifelong friends and lasting memories.
Cleveland and Northeast Ohio can't wait. For 3 Sports, I'm Nick Camino.
When the gay games were here a few years ago, it was considered the most successful event of its kind ever.
Look at that.
Well, it's only something. Quite an event. A Turning Point returns after this.
Before we go, we want to let you know that our Turning Point conversation does not stop here. It is continuing for you online.
That's right. Our team has been covering Pride throughout the month of June. You can find those stories and all of our content from tonight at WKYC.com.
And we thank you so much for watching our special tonight, a Turning Point Pride. Russ and I are back for you tonight at 11.
Entertainment Tonight is up next. We'll see you soon. Have a great night.